Mokyantimidandasya Jnananjanachalakaya chakshurun militam yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaudatveshe Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I am very grateful to be with you on this beautiful morning. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gaurvani, and Ananta, Sham Kishore, and everyone for your beautiful kirtan. In the Shikshastakam prayers by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the second verse, Nam Nama Kariba Nija Sarva Shaktish Tatrapi Tanyamitas Marane Nakala Ethadrisi Tapakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam Idrisam Ihajani Nanuraga. That, my dear Lord, you have invested your divine presence, your divine energy, your absolute attractiveness within your names. And you have many names that have been revealed in different times and different places. And simply by chanting these names with a sincere and devoted heart, we could wake up the immortal propensity of the soul, that liberated, enlightened state that we're all seeking. And then the Lord ends the verse after giving such a beautiful glorification of Harinam by revealing his mood. But I am so unfortunate that I do not have attraction for the all-attractive name that you have revealed to the world. In other words, he's teaching us that when we're humble, we could be grateful. And when we're grateful, then bhakti can grow within our heart. The heart is like a field. When we begin our spiritual lives, bhakti is like a seed. The chanting of God's names, the hearing about the Lord, seva to the Lord, satsang with holy people, it is like water that nourishes the seed. But at the same time, unless the ground is fertile, even putting water will take a long, long time. If the heart is dry and hard like a desert, it's very difficult for that perfect little seed to take root. But if the soil of the heart is very fertile, very soft, then the roots grow very deep. And the tree of bhakti can grow very quickly and very strong and bring the fruits of prema or ecstatic love. Gratitude. Gratitude softens and fertilizes the heart, makes it a suitable receptacle for mercy. As Gauravani and Ananta were explaining about rain, some people really like rain, some people really don't like rain. Rain could be a pain, again and again. We came to the Bahamas from Moscow. I was just, April 1st, I was in Moscow, and it was 1 degree. And there was massive blizzards, and it was ice and snow everywhere. And I was thinking, soon I'll be in the Bahamas. So here I am. I was thinking sunshine, the beaches, the ocean, and there's rain. But rain is so nice. Without it, no one can live. I remember my father when I was a little boy. He and his brother, they invested all the money they had, and they borrowed so much more, and they became automobile dealers of a brand new model that Ford Motor Company just came out with, and he was thinking, I'm so lucky. This is going to take us to the top. It was called the Edsel. And nobody bought Edsels. Now, he has his reason. You see, it's amazing how everybody has their own perceptions of reality. And it's not that one is right and one is wrong. They're just different perceptions. Some people will say Edsel was the most miserable, terrible car ever made, and that's why nobody bought them. That's what most people say. But my father said it was the best car. It's just that that year, the Russians put the Sputnik in outer space. And the Americans were so afraid that the Russians are ahead of us in technology, and they have bombs and we have bombs, and this, we're going to lose the Cold War. They're superior to us, and therefore nobody wanted to buy new things. The economy was very much kind of paralyzed to some extent. Anyways, he went into total bankruptcy, whatever the reason may be. And we had a small house, and I shared a bedroom with my younger brother, and it was right next to the only bathroom in the house. And after my father went into bankruptcy, and the government and his debtors, the people he owed money to, and the banks, and all these other, They were trying to take everything from him. He was struggling. And he would wake up early in the morning. He'd get home late at night just trying to somehow to keep the house from being taken away. And my mother, I remember, somehow or other, she'd spend at least an hour and a half every morning cutting out little coupons from newspapers to save like 2 cents on a tube of toothpaste to somehow or others, survive. But meanwhile, when my father was in the shower, every morning he would take a shower, he would always, under the water, sing the same song, and he would sing it loud, and he would sing it from the heart. It was kind of like a preparation for me of kirtan. He wasn't chanting God's names like it would have been much better if he was, actually. Now he does, actually, now he does. But he was chanting from his heart with real feeling. It wasn't just a ritual. An old song that many of you have heard. When April showers, they come your way. They bring the flowers that bloom in May. In other words, he understood this is a rainstorm, but ultimately it's going to make things better. There was optimism. There was hope. And it's true. I live in India, and we have our monsoon seasons in Mumbai, and they are torrential, unbelievable. There's at least 1 to 3 days during every monsoon season, which lasts 4 months, where the whole city is flooded. The airports are closed, the railway stations are closed, the streets are deserted from any vehicles because you can't drive. Sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 feet of water in the whole city. I've seen, looking out the window of our temple, I've seen people on rowboats going down the street. And most Indian people don't know how to swim for some reason. But they're just walking, and the water is muddy. And the water just mixes with it brings up all the sewage. So it's not like Bahamas water at all. It's a different color and a different taste and a different smell and a different hygienic experience altogether. But factually, if it doesn't rain enough during the monsoon season, for the rest, halfway through the year, everything's practically crippled because there's no water. So we could see rain as a disturbance, or we could see rain as a blessing. Actually, it's a blessing if we see it that way. The trees and all the plants, they're celebrating this rain. We can see, look at them, they look like they're dancing. Every leaf is going. But we're hiding under umbrellas and everything. I guess one person's food is another person's poison. The trees are happy and the people are thinking, oh. But Lord Caitanya, he said he came to the world to bring a massive rainstorm of prem, of ecstatic love, to flood our hearts and totally wash away all our illusions and all of our sufferings forever. And that rainstorm is Nam Kirtan, the wonderful sound of the holy name. And if we have grateful hearts, which means humility, when we are humble, we are grateful. When we are proud, we can't genuinely be grateful. Because when we're proud, we think I deserve. When we're humble, we're grateful for whatever may come. And the next verse, the Lord says, Trinadapi sunichena taror iba sahishnana. Amani namanadena kirtaniya sadahari. If we want to truly taste the sweetness of the name, we should be humble, like a blade of grass. We step on the grass under our feet, and dogs and cats, you know what they do in the grass. And the grass just comes back up. More humble than a blade of grass. More tolerant than a tree. In the summer, tolerance means in order to give to others, we're willing to be grateful for inconvenience. Like yesterday in the class, a baby was crying, and the mother, I think she liked the class, but she had to run out with the baby to feed the baby. So love means sacrifice, to be willing to even accept inconveniences for the pleasure of the beloved. And in a spiritual sense, compassion. The deeper the compassion, the more we're willing to make sacrifices for other living beings. That's an expression of love. So the nature of a tree is so tolerant, so forgiving, so much in a mood of service. In the heat of the summer, the tree will stand under the sun to give us shade. In the rain, the tree will stand directly under the rain and serve as an umbrella for us. In the winter, when it's freezing cold, in the cold lands like Moscow or New England, where I'm from, Chicago, the windy city, the tree will stand covered with ice and give us wood to keep us warm. And interestingly, as we explained, the monsoon seasons, it only rains during these 4 months. And the next 8 months, there's usually not a single drop of rain in many parts of India. The mango tree gives fruit in May and June. That means October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 7 months. No water. Nothing. And May and June are the hot seasons, where sometimes every day it's 95 to 105 degrees. It's sometimes oppressively hot. And while the mango tree is standing there directly under the sunlight, without having had a drop of water for 8 months, it's giving mangoes, the most sweet, luscious, juicy, refreshing fruit, and we're just eating. She's giving the mangoes. That's the nature of this spirit of servitude of a tree. And Lord Caitanya says, when we aspire for these qualities, to offer all respect to others. In India, a common greeting is namaste or namaskar. Namas means I bow down. I humble myself to you. Now, so many times we just say things but we don't really meditate on what it means. In America, we say hello, or sometimes hi. I guess that means I want you to get high. I know that's what it meant in the 1960s. But namaskar. I bow down to you. That means I bow down to the divinity, that spark of God that is within you, whoever you may be. It's such a humble and grateful attitude that we approach each other. To offer all respect to others and to not demand respect for oneself. If we aspire for that consciousness, Yeyatamam prapadyante tams tataiva bhavanyo. We have cited this verse many times. As we approach the absolute truth, the Lord reciprocates accordingly. We can experience the name by the grace of the name. And our heart will be flooded with joy, flooded with happiness. So in order to understand these principles, the Lord personally or through intimate associates reveals how to do this. Sometimes to very, very extreme degrees, which we cannot imitate, but we could emulate to understand the principle. Just like a little child who's just learning to play the violin. It's just first note. Like that. I never got beyond that, actually. But listening to masters playing, concerts, they can't do it. But it gives them hope. It's something to strive for. Even if I never can be like that, it's invigorating. When you hear the greatest masters, it doesn't mean that you're ever going to necessarily be like that, but it can inspire us to be the best we could be. So in this way, when we hear about these incredible, practically supernatural personalities, it helps us to understand what to value in our life. May I tell you one such story? Lord Caitanya, of everyone among his many, many followers, and he had tens and millions of followers, he selected one as the Nam Acharya. That means the person who teaches the world for all time to come the values and the character in which we should approach the chanting of the names of the Lord. In the path of Bhakti, there are three principal ways of chanting the names of the Lord. There is japa, individual, private. It's just me and my beloved. We could chant the names of the Lord very personally, very privately, whether we're eating in our mind, or whether we're sitting, or whether we're walking. Or to help with concentration, we use a mala, or chanting beads out of sacred wood. I just Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare, or whatever particular name we chant. And then there's bhajan. Bhajan we could be singing alone, singing. Often it's heartfelt prayers. Or other times it's songs with beautiful teachings and philosophy. Sometimes we're alone chanting, sometimes with instruments, sometimes with many others. And then there is kirtan, or Sankirtan. Congregational chanting where we come together with many people. And the kirtan may be in a mood of very deep humility, crying for mercy, feeling ourselves lower than the straw in the street, crying for mercy. Or kirtan may be a celebration of the rainfall of God's grace upon us and in the world, with raised arms, sometimes sitting, sometimes standing, sometimes dancing. So as the example of the teacher of this wonderful blessing, the Lord selected Haridas. Haridas was perhaps the most misunderstood person you can imagine. He was born in an outcast family by the caste system's standards, and therefore the Orthodox Hindus rejected him and considered him a terrible threat. They proclaimed he had no right to chant these mantras. It was sinful and polluting for him to do so. It was a disgrace. And the Mughals, who had political power, they had conquered India, especially in Bengal, at the place where he was living. They outlawed any external Hindu practice, and they considered him to be a traitor, and they hated him, the orthodoxy. So I'll give you a few examples. He was born in a place called Bhutan, which is today in Bangladesh. And he was living later on in a little straw hut in a forest in a place called Benapole. I went there with some students recently. The place where his hut was is still there. And there was a very learned, powerful Hindu leader there. His name was Ramchandra Khan. And he could not tolerate the popularity Haridas was getting. Haridas couldn't care less about popularity. He just wanted to serve. So whoever he met, he would serve with so much love, so much gentleness, so much compassion. Their hearts would melt, and they would see how he was always chanting God's names. Naturally, I want what you have. And they would chant. Haridas was so strict in his chanting. But sometimes when people are very strict, they become very egoistic and hard-hearted about people who aren't as strict as them. But that means your strictness has an opposite effect of what it's supposed to be doing to you. He was chanting minimum every single day before he would eat 300,000 names of Krishna, of Hari, of Sri Radha. 300,000 names. We chant on beads in the Bhakti movement of Krishna, usually 16 malas a day. Takes about 1.5 to 2 hours. 300,000 names means 192 malas a day. How many hours would that take? But for him, it wasn't a discipline. It wasn't an austerity. It was an ecstasy. He was tasting so much bliss. He was feeling the presence of the all-attractive, beautiful, beloved Krishna and Radha in every syllable. And he wasn't preaching to convert people. He was just sharing his love for Krishna and sharing his love for all living beings with whoever would accept. So many people were talking about him, and so many people were being transformed, and this Ramchandra could not tolerate it. This person is an outcast. He's polluting the entire environment. He's destroying our religion. He must be destroyed. So Haridas was like a Swami. He was a renunciate. Ramchandra sent the most beautiful prostitute, who was very expert at charming men, to go to Haridas' secluded little place to have an affair with him. And when it would happen, she would somehow or other call people, and there would be witnesses. And then, oh, you see, he calls himself a saint. So she went there, all alone with him at night as the sun was setting, and started revealing her beauty, and said, "You are a young man, and I am a young woman. Let us enjoy." And Haridas said, "I will satisfy your desire, but I haven't finished my chanting yet. I still have some more chanting to do. After I finish my chanting, then I will satisfy your wish." So he chanted and chanted all night long, and she was just sitting next to him until the sun rose. He said, "I'm sorry, I didn't finish my chanting. Come back tomorrow." So she came back the next night, and he chanted all night. And when the sun rose, he said, I still haven't finished my chanting. Come back tomorrow." What he didn't tell her is he never finishes his chanting. So the third night, after all night long, finally he said, "I finished my chanting." And she said, "And I finished all my material life. I want to be your disciple, that's all." She said, "I have come especially to destroy you, and now you have destroyed all my illusion. I just want what you have." And he said, "I know why you came. As soon as I heard Ramchandra Khan sent you, I was going to leave on my own. But I decided to stay 3 extra days just to give you love of God." And she became a disciple. And she shaved her head and lived in he left. And she lived in his little straw hut. And hundreds of people were coming every day to see the glories of Haridas. That this lady, who was a very low character, is now of the highest character. He went to a place called Fuliyagram. And there he met a great devotee named Advaita. And Advaita, we described this earlier, he was the leader of the entire Brahmin community. He wanted to give Haridas some nice accommodation. And to give someone like Haridas a nice accommodation, it's not like giving him a room with a nice beachfront view. He gave Haridas a cave because that's what he wanted. So Haridas was living in his cave, and he would be chanting. He would come out of his cave, and he would go on the bank of the Ganga, and in his absorbed in the holy name, sometimes spontaneously, he would just be dancing and crying in Paramananda, supreme bliss, and people would see him, and just by seeing him, their hearts were melted. He was so humble. He respected, he honored everyone as someone superior to himself. This had such an effect that the Mughal governor, who's called a Qazi, considered him such a threat. And he went to the king, the Mughal king, and said, "This Haridas must be tortured and killed." So many people are becoming inspired and enlivened toward this Hindu faith. We cannot tolerate this. So they put a warrant out for his arrest. And they didn't even have to find him. As soon as he heard about it, he came right to the prison house. And all the prisoners, many of them were good people who were just being oppressed by religious persecution. And they saw Haridas, and he was smiling. He came right to the king, to the governor, to turn himself in. And he was smiling. He was effulgent. And all the prisoners, when they saw him, they were thinking, you are such a holy, saintly person. Please bless us. Now, when you're a prisoner, and those prisoners, they were getting tortured. The blessing you want from a saint is to get out of prison. Yes? At least most of us, that would be the blessing we ask. They said, please bless us. And Haridas smiled, and he said, I bless you, that the way you are now, you will remain forever. And they looked really sad. What kind of blessing is that? And Haridas said, right now, you have folded hands, and you're looking toward God's devotee with great hope, with great faith, with very open, humble hearts. Let you remain like that. And I give you another blessing. Very soon you will be released from prison. But don't become materially distracted, addicted, and proud. Remain as you are now. And then you can achieve real freedom. Ultimately, the real prison is not these bars and walls that's keeping you in. The real prison is within our own hearts. The bars and the walls of the ahankar, the false ego, full of attachments, full of aversions, full of so many selfish pursuits, ambitions. When we are free from the shackles of that illusion, then we are liberated forever. This is the blessing I want to give you. And they were very happy. And then the guards came and saw, oh, he's here. And they grabbed him and brought him before the king and the Qazi. The Qazi said to the king, this man must be tortured and killed. And Haridas was just smiling. He was smiling at the king as if he felt sorry for him, like he was a loving brother. And the king's heart kind of melted. And he said, Haridas, why are you doing what you are doing? And now our time is up, so we will continue this story this evening. Thank you very much. It's actually a really good story, so please come back.